And as the situation in Gaza worsens with every passing day, with a massive humanitarian crisis unfolding, we are now joined on the show by Mustafa Ismael Tamaizeh. He is the Economic Justice Program Manager with Oxfam International. He joins us live from Ramallah in the West Bank. Mustafa, thank you so much for joining me on Global Lens tonight. This is a very difficult time for Palestinian people. Let me begin by asking you, how bad is the situation currently in Gaza as we speak? The death toll, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, has crossed 3,700.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yes, that's true. The situation is it's very bad. It is very dangerous, very risky. It's catastrophic. There is no secure place in Gaza. So casualties, people killed and people losing their lives every minute, every single minute. Unfortunately, they are civilians. Most of them, they are children and women. The figures are like increasing rapidly every minute. You feel that there is no shelters in Gaza. There is no safe place. Even the hospitals are not safe anymore. The school shelters, they are not safe. So situation is terribly bad. Now 2 million of the Gazans, they lack of water, lack of food, lack of medicines. So basically there is no electricity there. So can anyone imagine a life without electricity, without water, without food? That's by the international law, it's not allowed. It's against humanity, against the human principles. The situation is catastrophic and need immediate intervention in Gaza.
You're quite right, Mustafa. It's very difficult to imagine a life without food, water, electricity, fuel, and that is what Gazans are currently living through. I want to ask you this. The situation was bad enough already, with hundreds of Palestinians losing their lives in Israeli airstrikes. Can you tell us in some detail about that attack on the Al-Ahli hospital? Apart from the blame game that's going on between Hamas and Israel, we were told that some 500 people lost their lives in that attack. Do we have any confirmation of those figures? What more can you tell us about that particular hospital attack?
Unfortunately, that's the figure. Yes, it's confirmed. It's more than 500 civilians were killed. Most of them, they are children were playing in the garden. And the bigger question there, actually, why those people were in the hospital? The hospital were hosted over 4,000 people, in addition to the sick people and injured people, taking treatments in the hospital. But why people moved to the hospitals? Because the Israeli airstrikes, it's everywhere in Gaza. So the people look for a place where they think it might be safe for them. So some of them, they already moved to the schools, Honorwa schools, some moved to the hospitals. So those people, 4,000 people, were fled to the hospital. They thought it's safer. Unfortunately, it's hit. And there are some photos actually one day before the strike where people were cleaning the garden, were enjoying a little bit. Yeah, it is safer. Yes, they heard the bombardment everywhere, but at least not in the hospital. But unfortunately, even the hospital itself was targeted, and that's a big question mark. If the hospital, the most civilians building and organizations for everyone, it's become a target, then the question to the international community, where to go? Is there any safe place in Gaza? That's the point. The hospital's already hit by, the schools already hit by strikes, civilians, buildings, water, everything there. The infrastructure is not safe there. So the question where to go. So there is no safe place in Gaza. And the question here to everyone actually can see us. Does that accepted by humanity all over the world?
It should be unacceptable to the world. I couldn't agree more with you, Mustafa. And according to the World Health Organization, even before this hospital bombing, at least 115 health centers in Gaza had been bombed in these Israeli airstrikes. Now this hospital attack has made a bad situation so much worse, and you were saying it's not just patients who were at the hospital, there were people who had taken refuge there. And the most important question you're putting to the people watching this interview is, where do we go? There are no safe spaces left anymore. Is it correct, Mustafa, that even as Israel tells civilians to move from northern Gaza to southern Gaza, there have been bombings and killings in southern Gaza too? That's what a Palestinian that we spoke to 2 days ago told us. Is that how it is?
Yes. First of all, the Israelis asked the people in Gaza City and the northern part of Gaza to move to the south. They said it will be safe. Some of people already started moving, but unfortunately, in their way, moving from the north to the south, they hit by airstrikes and minimum 140 people were killed. Again, families, there are over 70 Palestinian families in Gaza, totally erased from the civil registry. The entire family were killed. So people moved to the south. There is no safe place in the south. So where to stay? People sleep in the streets. People sleep in schools and hospitals. Over 70 people per single room. Can you imagine? 70 people per single room. If there is, and they are lucky if there is a room. So then people decided to go back to home. They said, whether we still alive in our homes or we hit and we die in our home. Why to be hit like in the streets or in the cars or anywhere? There is no single square meter safe in Gaza. And let me tell you something even more. Not only about the strike, which does not discriminate between anyone, it's hit everyone. The problem now with lack of water, lack of, there is no electricity. There is clear signs now for waterborne diseases. And that's also who not die by the strike.
Mustafa, could you give us some more details of those diseases that you were talking about? You were saying not only is there no food, electricity, fuel, diseases are now spreading. Give us a sense of how bad the situation is on the health front for Palestinians.
Well, even before this escalation, the health sector in Gaza was really difficult, was really, weak because of the 16 years of, blockade over Gaza, nothing going. Everything is under control by the Israelis, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Now with this strike since 12 days, there is no electricity, no medicine supply, no water. And by the way, the water in Gaza either come from Israel, which is now closed, or comes from desalination water, because all the water in Gaza is saline. The salinity is high. So now with lack of electricity, the water, it's, desalination units are not working. Water from Israel is not coming. Now it is like 3 liters water available per capita per day. People in Gaza, my friends, I was calling them, they dream actually to find water just to take a shower. Very simple dream. So when it comes to the hospitals, the health sector in Gaza, it is collapsing. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Doctors are doing surgeries in the corridors without, proper in a proper room or proper tools and so on. The system is collapsing. Water is not there. And all the sewage now, we talk about a very dense area. And even the sewage now, it goes into the valleys and goes to the sea without any treatment. So that's harmed the human being, but also that's harmed the sea life. This is the life in Gaza. It is impossible unless there is immediate stop for this crazy war and allowing for humanitarian access for basic supply, food, water, electricity. And even we hear the positive news now with Biden visit to the areas. Exactly. It will be, they will allow humanitarian aid to go in. But they talk about 20 trucks. Just before 12 days, like Gaza, it has, 100 trucks per day, which is just barely enough for Gaza. 20 will not enough for Gazans in this situation.
This is what I wanted to come to next. That following President Biden's visit to Israel, there was an agreement between Israel, the US and Egypt that humanitarian aid will come into Gaza via Egypt. As of now, 20 trucks a day. You are saying that is far from enough. Many have said Gaza will need at least 100 trucks of humanitarian aid a day. But the question is, Mustafa, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this desperately needed aid does come in. But there are some fears. What if Hamas seizes this humanitarian aid? Will they let these trucks through? Will Hamas let this aid reach the Palestinian people who desperately need it? Are you worried about that?
Listen, I mean, we know the situation. We've been working there, Oxfam and like hundreds of international organizations. The UN agencies are there. We hear that. We know about that concern. We have our system, robust system in place. We know how to differentiate between people and where to feed those civilians. So now in the Norwa schools, in the hospitals, and everywhere. I don't think that's an strong reason or excuse to not allow for the humanitarian aid to go in. It's a matter of life. People are dying. Whether we allow the humanitarian aid to go in, of course, we can put the mechanisms to satisfy, according to the international laws, according to the international communities. We're happy to be managed by the UN, United Nations, which is trusted, organization all over the world. The point now, it's a matter of life. If they not allow for humanitarian aid to go in, and it's not 20 trucks, like a minimum 100 trucks per day, that's before the war. Now, 100 trucks per day will not enough. And we talk about food, we talk about water, we talk about medicine, and most important, we talk about fuel, because there is no electricity there, and you can imagine the health sector without electricity.
So
now we're approaching the winter.
How many trucks of humanitarian aid a day does Gaza need? 20 will not be enough. How many does Gaza need?
The minimum 100 trucks per day. That's before this situation. With this situation,
and now,
I don't think below 200 trucks per day will be enough.
Minimum 200 a day. But I want to ask you the question I asked you earlier. Like we said, this is good news. This is a positive development that these three countries have arrived at an agreement to bring in humanitarian aid. The question I was asking, Mustafa, is there are some who fear that Hamas may not allow this aid to come into Gaza. What would you say about that?
I think my reaction, let it go from the Egyptian side. And if Hamas stop it, we put it in their corner. So I can't, I'm not in a position to answer on behalf of Hamas. But I don't think they will be, taking this position, because actually the people there are dying. And I don't think any party will accept that. Even if Hamas accepted, though, then I will call through your channel. I will call the international community, even to pressure them. Why not? Why to stop, humanitarian aid? Why to stop food? Why to stop medicine? And in top of the medicine and those basic needs, also there is an immediate need to evacuate some of those people who are injured, civilians people, like women, children, and they are severely injured. And because the health sector in Gaza is really bad, is really weak, so they need to be evacuated. Otherwise, if they stay in Gaza, they might lose their life. So I think it's a matter of life. Let the aid go in, and if there is, in any case, Hamas will say no, I think the international community can find another solution, which I don't think it will happen.
Okay, you don't think it will happen. Gaza needs a minimum of 200 trucks of aid, and I couldn't agree more with you, Mustafa. Imposing a total siege and cutting off food, electricity, water and fuel supplies to 2.3 million people cannot be justified. It has been described as a war crime and a crime against humanity. But let me ask you a personal question. Can you tell us about your family, your friends, your colleagues in Gaza? What condition are they in? Have you been able to communicate with them in the last few days?
Well, I have been trying to communicate with many people there because I know many people there. Unfortunately, most of them I can't communicate because there is no way to communicate with them. The telecommunications is down. The electricity is not there, as I said. Internet is not there. It's hard to reach people. However, I managed to hear and to talk to some of them. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to eat. Some of them, they said they like eat once a day. Some of them, I confirm to you, a friend of mine, they and his family, they are drinking water not suitable for, for drinking, for domestic use. But this is the only source. It's agriculture water. As I told you, a friend of mine also, he said, my dream is to have enough water to have a shower. My dream, another one told me, is just to see my kids sleeping well in the night. They told me they hate the night more than the day, because in the night more strikes, and they only see the light of the strikes, unfortunately, when the fire set up, following the strike. It's really difficult. It's really hard situation there. People are collapsing. It's something really difficult to describe the situation in Gaza. People queuing in front of the bakery to bring bread for their kids, like 2, 3, 4 hours to bring just some bread to eat. It is a really catastrophic situation, and I'm calling through your channel, anyone can see us, to pressure the international community to take immediate action.
It is catastrophic. There is no other way of describing it. You're a Palestinian yourself. I want to ask you this question. Given what's going on in Gaza, how do you feel about one world leader after another, from President Biden to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, visiting the Israeli capital, standing next to the Israeli Prime Minister and saying, we are with Israel in this war against Hamas. Israel has every right to go after Hamas and every right to do what it is doing in Gaza?
The point is, this war, gradually, it's become against civilians. We're seeing the casualty are civilians. You can see in your TV, there are kids like infant, like over 35% of the people who were killed, infant, months, like 10 months, less than a year. Can you imagine? They are not Hamas. They don't know nothing about Hamas. Seeing the international leaders coming to Israel, I wish they also visit Gaza, just to see the situation in Gaza. As you said, I mean, the situation does not start 12 days ago. The situation started 70 years ago, since the occupation. There is a military occupation. It has to end. There is a blockade and complete siege over Gaza, 2.3 million being under complete siege. I can't tell you 1 million. It's 50% of the population there. They never been out Gaza. They know nothing about the war. They don't know where is in New Delhi, whether if it's in India or if it's in Egypt, because they never been out. What do you expect from those people? So I wish, like those leaders who come to Israel and show solidarity with Israel, just to cross the border and to see how the situation there, how the humanitarian situation, to talk to the people, innocent people, and see how they are really cool and human and generous and welcome everyone in the world. I would call also and argue the United Nations General Secretariat for an immediate and urgent visit to Gaza, to visit the UNRWA schools, to visit the UN agencies there in Gaza, to visit the hospitals, to talk to people. You know, the people in Gaza, apart from need for, of course, immediate ceasefire and for like basic needs and so on, but also they need someone to talk to them and to talk to. They need someone to listen to them and to hear what they are complaining and why they are complaining, what their situation, what's their hope. You know, there is a tragic things. I was listening to a child like 10 years old. He asked, what's your dream when you grow up? Just focus in the answer. He said, listen, in Gaza, we never grow up. We just killed at this age. So I don't imagine myself like stay another 10 years. This is the answer of this kid. Imagine the level of frustration that kid has to answer this answer. And that's applied for all Palestinians, to be honest with you.
It's heartbreaking. What you just told us about that 10-year-old Palestinian kid is heartbreaking, Mustafa. And you are saying all those world leaders who are visiting Israel should also come visit Gaza to see what's happening to the Palestinians there. And you're also making an appeal to the UN Secretary General to come visit Gaza.
Yeah, definitely. I argue all of them. If they are coming to Israel, that's fine. Come to see the Gaza. And if you have this like a relation with Israel, I'm sure they can pressure the Israel to stop this catastrophic war. And even if they go, now the Israelis, threaten the next step will be like a ground invasion. If they go for the ground invasion, I tell you, that will be a catastrophe. That will be a war crime. That will be thousands of people killed on the streets. Where to go? There are already some streets, some neighborhood completely erased, completely demolished in Gaza. So people don't know where to go. I was talking to a friend of mine in Gaza City. I was trying to encourage him to go out of his house because the Israelis, asked him to leave to the south. He said, Mustafa, I am already refugee since 70 years from in 1948 from the historical Palestine to Gaza. And I'm now refugee in Gaza. If I move to Rafah, there is no guarantee I will be back to Gaza again. So I'll be refugee for next time. I would prefer to die in my house. And they refuse to go out. So definitely I argue all the international communities. I argue Indian leaders also to come and visit, Pakistani, everyone, across the globe, from the south to the north, African leaders, even the Western, the Europe, why not the European Commission to come and visit and to see the situation on the ground? We are against any killing of any civilians anywhere in the world. But that if there is an action or if there is an attack happen, that does not justify you to target 2.3 civilians, million of Palestinians. They are civilians. They are literally in the largest jail on the world. It is a jail. People never go out of it because the Israelis have the gates and they just close the gates.
I want to tell you and our viewers, Mustafa, that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi just today spoke to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, and he said India will continue to send humanitarian aid to Gaza. He conveyed his condolences over the loss of lives, and he has said that we are committed to the Palestinian cause and to the two-state solution. India's Prime Minister conveyed that to the Palestinian Authority President today. But I want to ask you a different question, Mustafa. Do a lot of people, including Israelis, have said that Hamas not only kill Israelis, they also kill their own people, Palestinians. For example, they are known for using Palestinians as human shields. I want to ask you, do you believe that a majority of Palestinians oppose the methods adopted by Hamas? For example, the terror strikes in Israel?
Maybe I'm not, in that position because, I'm representing here, not Hamas, of course. But what I can tell you, also we need to talk about the context in general. We talk about a population who are under military occupations since 60 years. We talk about Palestinian people who 70% of them are refugees from their homeland. We talk about like the Palestinians agrees to go for a peace process with the Israelis, right? Since 30 years. The outcome of that peace process is nothing. And gradually you talk about like the two-state solution, which yes, most of Palestinians believe in it. But on the ground, I can tell you as a Palestinian and as a living here, I born here and grown up here, I never been outside. The two-state solution become impossible because if you look in West Bank, like it's over 80% of it, it's 100% controlled by the Israelis, by the illegal Israeli settlement, which is illegal according to the international laws. And that's like every day give you a feel that two-state solution is not valid anymore. So that makes the level of frustration high and high among the new generation. We talk about Palestinians who are 60% of them are below 18 years. It's a very, young people. And if you have this percentage of young people, youth with lots of frustration, no hope, so what do you imagine? What do you expect from them? There is no hope for any solution. If you talk about people in Gaza, they've been under the siege since 16 years. So 1 million out of 2.3 million.
I do take your point, Mustafa. Trust me, I do, about the frustration that you're talking about. But I will ask you this. Do Hamas enjoy popular support amongst Palestinians, according to you?
Hamas is part of the Palestinian parties. It has, but what's the percentage? I don't know. But definitely, it's not the whole population.
It's not the whole population, it's a percentage of the population, but it'll be difficult for you to tell us how much support they enjoy with the Palestinians.
I don't know, basically. Simply, I don't know that, but the point is, again, I mean, even if you took already Hamas, has the power in Gaza, but it does not has the power in the West Bank. But even though there is no Hamas in West Bank, okay, the last year, the current year, and the West Bank, according to official statistics by the UN agencies, the number of Palestinian people were killed this year is the highest since decades by the Israeli army. So the matter sometimes here, whether it's against Hamas or against civilians. So Hamas does not control the West Bank. So even, okay, why? So the peace process after 30 years. So what's the results? We are in the same situation. The question is here, what are the options in the front of Palestinians?
No Hamas in West Bank, why are Palestinians then being killed in West Bank is a very valid question. Final question, Mustafa, as we wrap up this conversation. You've already described the ongoing situation as a catastrophe. And we've been talking about how there might be a ground invasion of Gaza next by Israeli troops. You referred to it as well. How devastating is that likely to be? And given that Israel is in no mood to call a ceasefire or agree to a ceasefire, what would you say to the international community today?
And I say the history will write everything and will document everything. I think there is an opportunity for the international community to take immediate action. Otherwise, will be one day where the humanity will regret that they allowed for this war and the Israelis to kill 2.3 million civilians simply for no reason.
And many are saying that this is a genocide that Israel is carrying out. Is that how you see it?
If that will happen and they will go for ground and they will kill thousands of people, they are civilians according to the international law. And I think already hitting the hospital and the schools and doing such a ground invasion, that definitely will be a war crime and will be a genocide.
It would be a war crime, it would be a genocide. I can tell you one thing, Mustafa, we're all hoping and praying for this war to end at the earliest. Our thoughts and prayers are with all those who are suffering. There is just too much suffering right now. But thank you so much, Mustafa, for speaking to us about what is happening in Gaza at this very difficult time. It's not easy for you as a Palestinian who's so close to this conflict, but thank you for making time for us. We're hoping that people will listen to what you have to say.
We hope to. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to send this message to the world. Thank you.
We're grateful for your time. Thanks, Mustafa.
Thank you.